5 beaches, 5 names: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, Sword, strung along 80 kilometers of Norman coastline like links in a chain. The planners who drew that map spent months on each individual beach. The tides, the bombardment, how to get men off the sand before German armor arrived. They calculated angles of fire, surf conditions, the gradient of the sand. They worried less about what lay between the beaches. Here, 10 kilometers of cliff-faced coastline anchored on a small fishing harbor in a hollow between chalk headlands. The place where the American sector ended and the British sector began. The seam between 2 armies. This is where the invasion could have been split in 2. The planners had a name for the harbor, Port-en-Bessin. They had a plan for it too. By nightfall on June 6, 1944, the 2 Allied armies were supposed to have linked hands across this gap. American forces pushing east from Omaha, British forces pushing west from Gold. The gap closed, the chain complete. If it stayed open, German armor could drive through it, split the invasion, strike each half in isolation before either could be reinforced. 5 beaches, 2 armies, and 1 undefended seam. The most dangerous point in the entire Allied lodgment wasn't any individual beach. It was the space between them. What closing that gap actually cost, and who paid for it, is a story that has no photograph. June 5, 1944. Midnight. A harbor somewhere on the southern coast of England. 420 Royal Marine Commandos are loading into landing craft. Their orders are simple and nearly impossible. Cross the English Channel, land on Gold Beach, is march 12 miles through enemy-held territory and capture a fortified harbor perched on top of 200-foot chalk cliffs. Then wait for the Americans. They are number 47 Royal Marine Commando. They are the left side of the vise that is about to close on Port-en-Bessin. The right side is the 1st Infantry Division of the United States Army. The men of the 1st Infantry Division, the big red one, had already been to war. North Africa, Sicily. They were not new to any of this. But in 1943, when they returned to England, their commanding general was replaced, and the man who replaced him made them all feel like recruits. Clarence Ralph Hubner was 55 years old, a farm boy from Bushton, Kansas, who had spent 7 years rising from private to sergeant before receiving his commission. He had fought at Cantigny, at Soissons, and at the Meuse-Argonne. 2 distinguished service crosses and a silver star by the time the last war ended. He was not a man who confused reputation with readiness. When Hubner took command of the Big Red One in 1943, he replaced the popular, hard-drinking Terry Allen, and the enlisted men did not forgive him for it. His mandatory retraining program made veterans feel like new recruits. One soldier's complaint circulated through the division. "Hell's bells, we've been killing Germans for months, and now they are teaching us to shoot a rifle. It doesn't make any sense." Hubner heard it. He kept going. Bradley and Eisenhower backed him, and slowly, reluctantly, the division came around. Not because they liked him, but because he was right. By the time the Big Red One was assigned to Omaha Beach, it had been rebuilt from the inside out, and the man who would lead the British end of the link-up was quieter in bearing and harder in circumstance. Lieutenant Colonel Cecil Fondale. Phillips had taken over No. 47 Commando at its formation in August 1943, built it through the Scottish Highlands at Achnacarry Castle, and watched roughly half his original personnel wash out. Cooled on physical fitness, on discipline, on the unforgiving logic of commando selection. The men who remained had earned the Green Beret. Phillips had built them into something precise and capable. Among his troop commanders was a captain named Cousins, 22 years old, one of 5 troop leaders who would march toward Port-en-Bessin. Opposite them, on the German side of the channel, 2 worn but capable divisions held the coastline. The 716th Infantry Division covered the British landing zones. The 352nd Infantry Division held the coast west of Le Hamel, including Omaha Beach. The 352nd was not depleted. Of its 12,000 men, nearly 7,000 were experienced combat troops. And the Allies planning the invasion believed it was 20 miles inland. June 4th, 1944, 2 days before D-Day. Allied intelligence receives confirmation the 352nd Infantry Division has moved forward. It is not at St. Lô. It is not 20 miles from the coast. It is on the coastal defenses at Omaha. That information travels up the chain. It reaches V Corps. It reaches 1st Division headquarters. It does not reach the men loading into the landing craft. The operation was already in motion. Schedules fixed, objectives locked, transport arranged. And the men who would walk off the ramps at Omaha on the morning of June 6th would do so without knowing what was waiting for them. Post-action reports would later describe the 352nd's presence as accidental, a chance deployment, a fortunate coincidence for the defenders. Because the men who survived were working from what they'd been briefed, and the men who knew differently were dead on the sand. The invasion had originally been planned for June 5th. A storm forced a 24-hour delay. Meteorologists found a brief window in the weather, and Eisenhower made the call. Across the channel, German forecasters in Paris predicted 2 weeks of storms. Several Wehrmacht commanders were away from their posts. Rommel was in Germany for his wife's birthday. The window opened. The fleet moved. The men who went to sleep in their landing craft on the night of June 5th did not know about the 352nd. They knew the plan. The tides, the obstacles, the draws up the bluffs, the objectives inland. They did not know that every gun emplacement above the beach was manned by experienced soldiers who had just moved into position and were, as yet, barely scratched. June 6th, 1944. 6:30 a.m. 329 bombers from the 8th U.S. Air Force fly over Omaha Beach in the final minutes before the landing. They release their bombs. Fearing to strike the approaching assault waves below, the bombardiers delay their releases, and their entire payload falls harmlessly into Norman farmland beyond the beach. The guns above Omaha are undamaged. The 352nd is in position, staring down at the water. The ramps drop, and the 5 draws up the bluffs. The only exits off Omaha's sand had been pre-registered by German gunners. They are not accidental kill zones. They are engineered ones. Strong northwest winds have pushed the landing craft east, depositing men in the wrong sectors, far from what little cover they'd planned to use. Most of the DD tanks, the swimming Sherman tanks meant to provide direct fire support, were launched too far offshore. They founder in the swells. Of the 32 launched in the eastern sector, 27 go to the bottom. The men on the beach are on their own. 13 resistance nests ring the approaches. The 352nd's riflemen fire down from the heights. Men cluster behind the steel obstacles in the surf because moving means dying, and clustering means the same. And the draws swallow everything sent into them and give nothing back. By mid-morning, 2 small pockets of men have clawed their way to the base of the bluffs. The beach itself is catastrophe. 11 miles offshore, aboard the heavy cruiser USS Augusta, General Omar Bradley watches the reports come in. He is the commander of the American ground forces. He is responsible for linking the 2 Allied armies. What is reaching him from Omaha is so bad that by 9 in the morning he is calculating something he will never fully acknowledge in his memoir: whether to abandon Omaha entirely, evacuate the survivors, redirect subsequent forces through Gold Beach to the east and Utah to the west, leave the Hinge Beach behind. The man whose job is to connect the 2 Allied armies is, at this moment, and holding a pair of scissors at the thread the entire plan is hanging from. At 9:30 a.m., a radio message reaches Augusta. Troops hitherto pinned down on Easy Green, Easy Red, and Fox Red beaches are advancing. Bradley does not give the evacuation order. The beach is already saving itself before he can abandon it. Small groups move without orders. Sergeants and privates and lieutenants acting because the officers ahead of them are dead. By dusk, 2 isolated pockets exist on Omaha's sand. Tenuous, exhausted, far short of the day's objectives. The gap to the British beaches remains open. 30 miles to the east, on Gold Beach, Number 47, Commando's 14 landing craft approach the beach at 8 in the morning. The guns at Le Hamel and Longs are already ranging. 1 landing craft takes a direct hit, and 12 men drown or die in the water. The others continue. Then the Belgian gates. Steel obstacles welded from girders, many tipped with mines, now covered by the rising tide. 4 landing craft are impaled. They explode. Phillips counts his men on the beach. Around 300 are standing. He has lost 28 killed or drowned, 21 wounded, 27 missing. A third of his unit before a shot has been fired in anger. 3 of his 4 wireless sets are gone. Most of the ammunition, all the mortar sights. His landing craft has been sunk. Phillips has swum to his own invasion. He stands on the beach, dripping, and gives orders. He scrounges weapons from the British dead on the sand, borrows a radio from another headquarters, and prepares to march 12 miles through enemy territory toward a fortified harbor perched on top of chalk cliffs. By 10:30 in the morning, they move out. The Normandy bocage is not kind to moving men. Sunken lanes carved below field level. Hedgerows 6 feet high, roots bound in earth worked for centuries. The landscape breaks formations, swallows radio signals, makes a map nearly useless. In full kit, close to 40 kilograms per man. Number 47, Commando, pushes west through rising summer heat, already dehydrated from a night at sea. What they do not know is that the ground between them and Port-en-Bessin is fractionally less defended than it might have been. The 352nd Division's reserve, nearly 3,000 men of Kampfgruppe Meyer, stationed near Bayeux, had been sent early that morning to investigate American airborne drops near Utah. When the scale of the invasion became clear, 1 battalion was redirected to reinforce the German effort at Omaha. That battalion, pulled toward the American killing ground, is no longer in the bocage the commandos are crossing. The same German decision that deepened the slaughter at Omaha makes the march slightly more survivable. In the early evening, the commando moves through the village of La Rosière. German troops are waiting. 1 commando is killed. 11 are wounded. The dead man's weapons are distributed. The march continues. By the time the sun goes down on June 6, 1944, Number 47, Commando, has dug in on a hilltop called Point 72, outside the village of Escour, 1.5 miles from Port-en-Bessin, where the plan called for the gap to close by nightfall on D-Day. D-Day is over. The gap is still open. On the Omaha end, the big red one holds 2 small pockets of sand. On the gold end, a battered commando unit sleeps in fields, 1.5 miles from the harbor they need to take. The 16th Infantry Regiment, the easternmost regiment of the big red one, has begun pushing east from the fragile beachhead toward the seam, 2 forces converging on opposite sides. Between them, occupying the port and holding the chalk headlands above the harbor mouth, the German garrison waits for morning. June 7, 1944, 4 p.m. Operation Aubery begins. Port-en-Bessin sits at the bottom of a natural bowl, a fishing harbor pressed into a notch between 2 chalk headlands. So the eastern feature and the western feature rise 200 feet above the harbor mouth on either side. And both are fortified. Bunkers, trenches, barbed wire, anti-tank guns. 3 hardened strong points ring the approaches. In the harbor basin below, two German flak ships ride at anchor, their guns elevated toward the heights. HMS Emerald fires support from offshore. Fighter bombers make their passes. The commando advances in the afternoon light toward the port and the cliffs above it. When the assault troops are well up the western slope, the flak ships in the harbor open fire from below, firing up the cliff face at men who cannot return fire without exposing themselves. In minutes, 12 commandos are killed and 17 are wounded. More than half the assault troop gone. The remnants pull back. Then the German counterattack comes from the south. It overruns the commandos' rear headquarters. An attack across the road to Escures cuts the line of supply. The road is gone. The commando is isolated. Ammunition trucks from 522 Company, Royal Army Service Corps, drive through German machine gun fire to get supplies forward. Some make it. It is not enough. By dark, number 47. Commando has approximately 280 men. Many of them are wounded. There is no reliable supply line. The commando is isolated, taking fire from a harbor it cannot take by direct assault and running critically short of ammunition. The memorial at Port-en-Bessin, unveiled 65 years later, records the situation in the plainest possible terms. During the afternoon and evening of June 7, 1944, 47 Royal Marine Commando had suffered serious reverses, and casualties were rising. Sir Robert Bruce Lockhart would later call what happened next the most spectacular of all commando exploits during the entire invasion. In the darkness and smoke and intermittent fire, Captain Terence Cousins leads a small reconnaissance patrol toward the eastern headland. He is looking for a way up the cliff that the German defenders have not thought to cover. The fixed defenses face the sea, face the harbor, face the roads. Cousins moves along the southern approach, through shadow, through the scrub below the chalk face. He finds it, an unmarked zigzag path cut into the cliff, rising from the inner harbor to the fortifications at the top of the eastern feature. He comes back down. He goes to Lieutenant Colonel Phillips. He tells his commanding officer what he found. "Give me 25 men," he says, "and I can take the headland." Phillips gives him the 25 men. In gathering darkness, accompanied by Captain Vincent and Lieutenant Stickings, Cousins leads his small force up the zigzag path. 25 men against a fortified position held by 4 times their number. Concrete, barbed wire, minefields, entrenched defenders with the high ground. They climb. One position is taken, then another. The fighting is close. Grenades, small arms, men taking ground, foot by foot in the dark. Cousins moves forward. The eastern feature falls. A German grenade lands near him. He is mortally wounded at the top of the cliff he has just taken. He does not come back down the path. By dawn on June 8, 1944, the rest of the harbor is in British hands. Port-en-Bessin has fallen. The morning of June 8th is quiet by comparison. Soldiers of the U.S. 16th Infantry Regiment, the easternmost regiment of the Big Red One, the men who had come off Fox Green and Easy Red on D-Day morning and fought through the worst Omaha had to offer, are moving east through Huphane, along the coast road, toward the harbor and the chalk cliffs where a battered commando unit has been waiting. There's no photograph of what happens when they arrive. No journalist, no film crew, just 2 groups of exhausted men from 2 armies, reaching each other across 2 days of separate catastrophe. They had been moving toward each other since June 6th, through different versions of the same disaster, one on a beach of sand and pre-registered draws, one through 12 miles of bocage and a cliff assault in the dark. They knew almost nothing of each other's specific situation, and they could not have known how close either had come to failing. They met at Port-en-Bessin on the morning of June 8, 1944. The gap closed. By the morning of June 9th, the 1st Infantry Division had established contact across the full front with British 33rd Corps. The German 726th Grenadiers, squeezed in the pocket between Bayeux and Port-en-Bessin, spent that night extricating themselves from a trap they could not escape. The gap that had threatened to split the entire Allied invasion was pressed shut, and a German regiment was being squeezed out of it like a man caught in a closing door. The harbor itself began operating almost immediately. June 9th, the same morning the formal link-up was complete, Allied engineers began installing the first elements of Pluto, the pipeline under the ocean, which would thread fuel from the Isle of Wight through Port-en-Bessin toward the advancing armies. The outer harbor was organized along the very boundary that had just been erased, Americans working the western quay, British working the eastern. The harbor, captured to bridge two armies, was divided between them, right down the middle. Then the storm came. 3 days, June 19th through 21st, and it destroyed Mulberry A, the American artificial harbor off Omaha Beach. Transports were diverted to Port-en-Bessin. The harbor that was always supposed to matter turned out to matter more than anyone had planned. The gap closed at such cost became the fuel supply for the entire Allied advance. On June 10th, General Bernard Montgomery drove to Port-en-Bessin. The commander of the entire Allied ground force came to this small harbor in a notch between chalk cliffs and spoke with the inhabitants. He came in person. The history does not record what he said. General Julian Thompson of the Royal Marines would later write that No. 47 Commando's action at Port-en-Bessin was, in his opinion, one of the great feats of arms of any unit, of any service, of any nation in the Second World War. Hübner's Big Red One fought on through St. Lô, Mortagne, Aachen, the Hürtgen Forest. In January 1945, Hübner took command of V Corps, leading it from the Rhine to the Elbe, where his troops were among the first to meet the Red Army coming from the east. He died in Washington in 1972. He is buried at Arlington. No. 47, Commando marched east and spent the summer in defensive actions along the Orne. She then fought at Walcheren in November, then through Holland until the end. They left Port-en-Bessin on the morning of June 8th, the same way they had arrived on the morning of June 6th, moving forward, lighter than before. On the chalk headland above the eastern mouth of Port-en-Bessin harbor, there is a memorial stone. It was unveiled on June 7, 2009, 65 years to the day, after the night a patrol of 25 men climbed a zigzag path in the dark and took the cliff above the harbor. The gap between the two Allied beaches closed on the morning of June 8, 1944. The man who made it possible did not see it. He was 22 years old.